Adventure in the Andamans. What I am about to tell you happened many years ago. I was just a young boy, and the Andaman Islands were my vacation playground every summer. Manav, please don't go in too deep, my mother shouted from her spot on the beautiful sunny beach. Yes, Ma, I replied. I loved the beach and the ocean was home to me. When I used a snorkel, I pretended I was entering a secret world filled with mysterious creatures. That morning, I floated on my back for a while, enjoying the warm sunlight, and then I put my head under the water again. The next moment, I felt something touch my shoulder. A turtle, a tiny turtle, I shouted to myself through my bulky mask. I followed him through shoals of tiny fish and hundreds of other glorious rainbow colored fish. As I allowed myself to glide gracefully next to the tiny turtle, I felt his flipper touch my hand. I stayed close, and the two of us swam together. After some time, I decided to put my head above the water to clear my mask while Tiny the turtle crunched on some green seaweed. I looked back at the beach. My mother will be worried, Tiny. I have to go. But I'll be back tomorrow, okay? It's hard to explain, but I think Tiny smiled at me. I didn't tell anyone about my turtle, and that night I dreamt about Tiny showing me the whole ocean. The next morning, I almost dragged my parents to the beach and then quickly wore my rubber flippers and wobbled into the clear blue water. Be careful, Manav, called my mother as usual. Of course, Ma, I replied. I swam out to a safe depth and then waved to my parents. When I reached my usual area near the big black rocks, Tiny was waiting. My heart missed a beat as he smiled at me again and then asked me to follow him, not with words, of course, but I just knew. And then Tiny took me on a magical journey. We swam through giant coral reefs, glided past slimy eels, and saw thousands of starfish resting on a rock. But Tiny saved the best until last. Basking in the reflection of the summer sun, I discovered a whole family of turtles. This was Tiny's family. I was dizzy with excitement. After a few moments, I thought it best to thrust my head out of the water and get some fresh air. Then, as I plunged back down to join Tiny, I nearly choked. I saw him twisting and turning in a section of fishing net, a silver hook planted firmly in his back left leg. Wait, Tiny, I cried. I'll help you, but you have to trust me. Tiny stayed perfectly still, but I could see the pain in his eyes. My hands were shaky, but soon I gently pulled the hook free and the net came away easily. Tiny was safe. I gathered up the net as I didn't want any other turtle getting caught. I suddenly realized I had been away from the beach for quite some time, so I waved to the turtle family and rose to the surface. But the beach seemed so far, and my parents were just tiny little dots. I had never been so shocked or frightened in my life. Tears filled my eyes as I tried to keep moving my hands and feet. They felt as if they were made of iron. Tiny, I cried. I am so tired, and the beach is so far away. I simply can't swim back. Suddenly, I found a huge turtle beneath me. I gently reached down to hold the edge of her shell, and she started to move slowly. I held my breath and we soon started moving through the water easily. I found that Tiny followed us too. It was a ride I would never forget. I spotted my worried parents walking up and down the shore, waiting for me. As soon as it was shallow enough for me to stand, Tiny and the big turtle moved away. I stood on shaky legs, and as I looked back, Tiny poked his head out of the water and gave me one final smile. That was the last time I ever saw Tiny. But it was the best day of my life. I told my parents what had happened and even showed them the net, but they just thought I had been playing imaginary games. I still have the net today, but have never told anyone else my story. I knew nobody would ever believe me, except maybe you. Adventure in the Andamans. This is a wonderful story about a young boy who always loved to spend his holidays in the beautiful beach of Andamans. Now he is a grown up man and trying to recollect one such incident happened in one of those holidays which is beyond imagination and also too hard to believe. Before moving on to the story, what is an island? An island is a land area which is surrounded by water on all four sides. Now let us meet the characters. Manav, a young boy, and his parents. Young turtle named Tiny, and some beautiful glimpses such as shoals of fish, rainbow colored fish, coral reefs, slimy eels, starfish, and Tiny's family. In this story, the author explains his childhood memories about the amazingly beautiful summer days that he spent on the Andaman Islands. The story goes like this. Manav came to the Andaman Islands as usual to spend his summer holidays. Manav was always very much fascinated or interested by the blue waves and swimming in the sunny beach. Manav moved to the waves and his mother cautioned him to be careful and not to go too deep because playing in the waves is not that safe. But Manav is all set to have a safe dive into the wave. The ocean was like a home to Manav as he comes there every vacation. He got ready with all his gadgets for a safe swim, a bulky or large diving mask, a breathing tube called snorkel, and flippers or swim fins that helps to cut through the waves. Whenever he used a snorkel, he had a feeling that he is going into a magical place and he used to imagine that he is entering into a secret world full of mysterious creatures. Manav moved to the waves and he was enjoying the warmth of sunlight by floating on his back. After some time, he put his head under the water. Suddenly, he felt a touch on his shoulder. He quickly had a look and found a turtle, a tiny, cute turtle. Out of happy and excitement, he shouted, "A turtle, a tiny turtle," through his bulky mask. Soon, Manav befriended the turtle and followed it. Manav named the turtle Tiny. Tiny the turtle took Manav to the magical world of deep blue ocean. Manav could enjoy shoals of tiny fish, hundreds of glorious rainbow colored fish. By seeing all these, Manav felt excited. Manav gracefully glided along with Tiny, enjoying the blue waves. As they swam together, Manav felt Tiny's flippers touched his hand. They came closer and swam together. Manav felt very happy and excited to get Tiny the turtle as his friend. Manav and Tiny swam together for some time. After some time, Manav came above the water to clear his mask, that is, to clear the water that get trapped inside the mask. Meanwhile, Tiny enjoyed some crunchy seaweeds or the plants that grow underwater. As Manav came above the water and he looked back towards the beach and thought of his parents, he was quite far away from near the beach than the usual distance he used to go. Manav wanted to go back to the beach and said to Tiny, "Tiny, my mother will be worried. I have to go, but I'll be back tomorrow morning. Okay?" By hearing this, Tiny smiled at Manav. They became good friends. Manav swam back and went home. Manav did not share anything about his new friend Tiny to anyone. That night, Manav had a dream. In the dream, Manav went for a beautiful magical journey along with Tiny into the deep blue ocean, and Tiny showed him the whole ocean. Next morning, Manav compelled his parents to accompany him to the beach. He was so much excited because of his dream. Manav quickly got ready for a swim by preparing himself with all his gadgets. He wobbled through the beach as he was wearing flippers and somehow managed himself to reach to the clear blue water. As he moved, his mother cautioned him to be careful and he promised to. Manav waved to his parents and swam out to his usual area near the big black rocks and got surprised to see Tiny waiting for him. Tiny gave him a smile and asked Manav to follow him. Though Tiny did not speak anything, Manav could read it from Tiny's face. As they became good friends, he could not control or express his happiness. Manav followed Tiny and soon they reached to such beautiful places that Manav saw in his dream. It was a magical journey in the deep blue ocean through giant coral reefs, slimy eels, thousands of starfish resting on rocks, and finally, Tiny took Manav to the whole family of turtles. Basking in the reflection of the summer sun, the turtle family was enjoying the warmth of the sunlight reflected through the blue waves. Manav did not know how to express his excitement or happiness, and he felt dizzy with too much of excitement. That is a positive feeling of overexcitement or sudden feeling of happiness. Manav wanted to put his head forcefully out of water to get some fresh air as he is underwater for too long, and also to overcome his dizziness. Manav then quickly dived back to Tiny, and he was so shocked to see Tiny struggling with pain. Tiny was twisting and turning to get escape from a section of a fishing net. Tiny was suffering from severe pain as a sharp silver hook got firmly planted on his back left leg. By seeing this, Manav felt very sad and assured help to Tiny. Manav said Tiny to not to move. Tiny stayed perfectly still. Manav could see the pain in Tiny's eyes. Manav's hands were shaky as he is underwater for quite a long time. Manav carefully and gently removed the sharp silver hook without causing much pain to Tiny and cleared the section of fishing net from Tiny. Now Tiny is safe. Manav took the net with himself because he did not want any other turtles to be caught in the net. At this point, Manav realized that it had been a long time he is away from the beach. Manav wanted to swim back and said bye bye to the turtle family by waving his hands and rose to the surface. As Manav looked towards the beach, he got more frightened as he could see the amount of distance from the beach. His parents seemed just tiny little dots to him. He got so shocked and frightened as never before in his life. Tears filled in his eyes out of fear. Manav tried hard to swim towards the beach, but he could not move his hands and legs. His hands and legs were frozen and heavy as if they were made of iron because he is underwater for quite a long time. Out of great fear, Manav called Tiny for help. He said to Tiny that he is too tired to swim back and the beach is far away. Suddenly, to his surprise, Manav saw a huge turtle just beneath him. Manav reached down to the big turtle and managed to hold the edge of her shell. Then the turtle started to move slowly. Soon they moved together. Tiny accompanied Manav along with the huge turtle. As they neared the beach, Manav could see his parents walking up and down the shore and waiting for him. Manav's parents were very much worried as Manav was getting late. Now they reached the shallow area of the beach where Manav could manage himself to stand on his shaky legs. Then Tiny and the big turtle moved away. Manav stood on his shaky legs and turned back to see the big turtle and Tiny to express his gratitude or to express his thankfulness. Tiny put his head out of water and gave a final smile at Manav. That was the last time Manav ever saw Tiny, and Manav felt that it was the best day of his life. Manav never enjoyed again his summer holidays in this manner. Manav reached the shore and shared everything to his parents. He also showed the net he grabbed from Tiny's leg. But his parents were not ready to believe him at all. They thought that Manav could be playing some imaginary game as usual. Now Manav is grown up. Still, he has the net with him. But he never shared this to anyone. And he does not want to share this story to anyone else because he knows that nobody would believe him other than his young readers who are enjoying the story.